Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for requesting this private session that Jacklyn and Erika and I are getting ready to do. So, we were just chatting a little bit before this, and of course, recording the episode of the podcast, which, if you haven't listened yet, then click below and take a listen first so that you can get a little background on what we're doing. But what we're going to do today is a round of tapping that should hopefully get the two of you a nice shift and anyone listening and doing this along with us. So, we talked about the whole mom work life balance a little bit and the perfectionism or other negative emotions that come in along with that. So what do you find comes up for you the most, Erika? Like when you're thinking, and this is like dish the dirt, like the negative stuff. We know that we're all like probably amazing moms and we love our kids and everything else, but like when we're talking about the negative emotions of it, what are the ways that you either judge yourself or find that irritability with shifting between work life and home life, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about because I am a perfect mom and I never get frustrated to the point that I have to leave the room. That being said, I think, one of the things that I've noticed with me is that when I've been through a really hard day at work, if I don't take a break between that and walking out, I'm carrying that same sort of frenetic energy into the kids' space. And when I go in with that energy, it feels like they're matching me. And so everyone's like hyperactivity and levels. And then people start bickering. And then I start bickering. And we're all bickering at each other. And then someone says something they're not supposed to say. And then someone gets grounded. And it's just ongoing sort of the cycle that happens where if we, and I'm going to include my husband in this, he's going to be like, don't throw me under the bus here. But if we walk out and we've been kind of through it in our professional capacity for the day, it's like we're bringing our family into that baggage. And I've talked a lot about with my therapist, with my family, with everyone that I kind of talk to, my coach as well, about this idea that, it manifests in frustration and it manifests in this sort of urgency. And I feel like I'm constantly rushing my kids to the next thing. And that rushing is the antidote to presence and quality time together. And I think that's something that I'm trying to work through and be more conscious of as a mom, be more conscious of as a wife and partner to my husband, and also as, a manager. It's not fair for me to rush through the time that I have with people that I'm mentoring and trying to develop professionally. But when I think about the mom space, it is kind of that energy level that I bring in that is just not, and this is my word, it's not healthy. It's not the way that I imagine my mom life being. That's my dirt.
Okay. So in a perfect world, what would it be like?
Gosh, 5 o'clock rolls around. The kids have done their homework. We're off to our whatever nighttime activity we may have. And then, no one protests the vegetable selection of the evening. We're in bed at 7:30 and no one has to, no one's arguing about the flavor toothpaste that they have for that evening. And it's just, that sort of fluid flow that you hope for. And those nights happen, right? Like we have those good nights and we go to bed and we're like, winning today. And the next day, someone decides to dump their entire meal on the floor because they didn't like the Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like that.
Okay. So I would say the difficulty is more in the transitioning from work to home than the opposite way most of the time, right?
Um, yes, I have a good amount of space between the home to work in the morning. Our kids' school starts really early.
Okay.
So I actually have enough time to sit down and I have a morning practice I go through between drop off and when I start my day.
What kind of things do you normally do at that time?
I either read or I listen to a podcast, or I have a worksheet that I do where I list out my stressors on the front and my relaxers on the back. And if I had a really bad night the night before, I have my stressors on the front, the relaxers on the back, and I look for the stressor under physical, emotional, and intellectual. And I look on the back of it to see if there's something that I can do that day to relieve that stress.
Good. I like that. It's a great practice. What about you, Jacklyn? How does this kind of stuff show up for you?
I think I'll resonate with a lot. The thing I would throw out there is guilt. A lot of what I've heard from Erika, or just as I've been thinking through, is I think for me is I'm always trying to be that perfect mom. I'm always trying to be that perfect employee, that perfect boss, the perfect wife, the perfect friend, the perfect daughter, the perfect everybody, which then really comes down to I try not to show up to them negative, but then it's really I'm left drained and depleted at the end. And I think that is it. And then the one thing I would say that also shows up is I'll make a decision, like here's a real example that's still weighing on me, and this was almost a week ago, where it was the end of the day, it was like 10 o'clock, and my oldest is now old enough that he can stay up a bit later, and I had just sat down and I was just grabbed dinner. So I'm eating dinner at 10 o'clock, sitting down with my TV on, and he says, "Could we play a game?" And normally the mommy would love to play a game with my oldest child. Love to. But I said no, because it's like, oh, I just sat down. And it was that guilt I felt after for here we are 2 weeks later, I'm talking about it. Something so little. Like, why didn't I just say yes? And it was because in that moment, I was tired, and it was almost like a response. So I think that's how it shows up for me, is it's really just trying to be everything to everybody. And then when I can't be, it's holding it internally as guilt.
And does this show up for either of you in any ways that are physical? Like when you transition from work to home, or when you're having these guilty feelings, is there like a feeling in the pit of your stomach, or is there like anxiety in your chest, or anything that comes up physically for you?
Yes. Let me list the ways. I have chronic migraines. I have ocular migraines as well as stress migraines. The ocular ones are so bad that if I don't catch them early enough, I am out for 2 days, and it's the kind of headache that makes you throw up. I
Definitely recommend doing EFT separately for that. And I used to get migraines all the time. I don't know when the last one was that I got. I don't get them anymore.
Yes, I will. I'm actually really excited to do this, because I'm going to add it to the whole repertoire of things that I do.
They're debilitating. I've had them. They're awful.
Yeah. I mean, and then you lose your time with your kids. Like, I've gotten them on vacation, because for me, at least, sometimes they will, when you relax enough, it happens. And then you lose like a day or two of vacation, because you have that one day of kind of decompression, and then you just like, your brain just goes, I need to totally lock up, and you have to stop. I do sometimes get the tightness in my chest, where I'm like, I'm so upset that I can't like handle it. And then recently, and this is super fun, I had a diaphragm muscle spasm. And if you've never had one of those, it is like the first time it happened, I was like, is this a heart attack? Is this what this feels like? It wasn't. It was just a muscle spasm. It was like a Charlie horse, and like the lower part of it is not comfortable.
Okay. So the chest tightness, we're hoping that diaphragm thing is like a one and done. Like, we're not right. Can we just be done with that one?
Yeah, let's not do that at one again. That was pretty.
Okay.
I was like,
lots of ways that it's showing up. All right, let's tap into this. So I want both of you to think about the stress that comes up when you're transitioning from work to home, or when you're feeling like you can't meet everybody's needs at home because you might be drained from everything you've already done. And I want you to give it a number. So 0 is like, there's no stress at all. I got this handle, like, do it all day. And 10 is like, I'm really struggling with this, and it's a big challenge for me. And I'd love to hear your numbers. I will write them down for you.
So I'm assuming this is like in a scenario where it's bad, like not an average, or...
How do you feel when you think about it right now? The present moment's all that ever matters.
So I'd say probably a 7.
Okay.
Today has been rough, because the kids are tracked out of school, and they've been like coming into the office and interrupting every meeting that we've had. So I'm going to also give it a 7. But it does it's very much a fluid.
Sure. Everything
number.
can change from moment to moment. Or everything. So, but like I said, the only place we have any power is right here, right now. So the way that we're feeling right now, or the power that we're leaking to these other things, it only matters right now. Can't do anything about it at any other time. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, it's going to be like follow the leader. So you're just going to, I'm going to say a thing, you're both going to repeat it back. And, like we were talking about before, EFT likes specificity. So if you're somebody who's listening at home, or even if the two of you are not agreeing with something that I'm saying, you can change it to something that feels more in alignment. I'm hoping I can kind of nail it a bit here with everything that you've given me to work with. But it's just important to speak to yourself in a way that feels in alignment. It's kind of like when you try to say affirmations and you don't believe them, you just stir up more stuff that doesn't feel aligned, and you don't actually attract the thing that you want because you're not really vibrating at the right frequency to make it happen. So we'll just keep it true and authentic. That's all. So we're going to start by tapping on the side of the hand. The points that we'll end up going through include the top of the head, the eyebrow, the side of the eye, under the nose, under the mouth, collarbone, which is actually below your collarbone, not actually on the bone, but kind of that sore spot on your chest. And then under the arm, which is where a bra strap would wrap around the side of your body, not like your armpit. So those are the spots.
Does it matter if it's the thumb size or the thumb side or the pinky side?
The pinky side.
I was going to say, notice you're all doing pinky and I was
chop
doing
point.
thumb, and I was like, wait, I think I'm wrong.
Yeah, this is called the karate chop point. So think about like if you were karate chopping a board and then you're kind of just doing that with your other hand. Doesn't matter if you use your left or right. Doesn't matter which hand you use, which side of the body you use, or if you tap both eyebrows or just one. None of that matters. Just do what feels right for you. All right, here we go. Take a nice deep breath. And I want you to just focus in on those feelings of tension, whatever they might be. Any feelings of stress or falling short or not being able to do it all. And now you're going to repeat after me. Even though it's really hard to transition from work to being a mom.
Even though it's really hard
to transition from work
to being a mom.
I want to love, accept, and forgive myself.
I want to love, accept, and forgive myself.
Even though this is not how I imagined it was going to be.
Even though this is not how I imagined it was going to be.
This is not the storybook life I signed up for.
This is not the storybook life I signed up for.
I honor all of these feelings and want to accept myself anyway.
I honor all of these feelings and want to accept myself anyway.
And even though there's so much guilt and disappointment.
Even though there's so much guilt and disappointment.
And people pleasing.
And people pleasing.
I want to love, accept, and forgive myself.
I want to love, accept, and forgive myself.
All right, now we're going to start going through the other points. Who told me this was all supposed to feel balanced?
Who told me this was all supposed to feel balanced?
Most days, something feels like it's out of whack.
Most days something feels like it's out of whack.
You guys are welcome to open your eyes and look if you want so that we can transition through the points together. When I've had a hard day at work.
When I've had a hard day at work.
It can be really hard to shift gears.
It can be really hard to shift gears.
Especially when the kids don't show up as I expect them to.
Especially when the kids don't show up as I expect them to.
And everything can feel a little out of control.
And everything can feel a little out of control.
I can feel a little out of control.
I can feel a little out of control.
And those kids match my energy, and then it all spirals down.
And those kids match my energy, and it all spirals down.
And I can feel so much urgency to make it all better.
And I can feel so much urgency to make it all better.
Why do I believe it's my job to make it all better?
Why do I believe it's my
job to make
to
it
make
all
it
better?
all better?
When I feel rushed and urgent,
When I feel
When I feel
rushed
rushed and
and urgent,
urgent,
I do not show up as my best self.
I do
I do
not
show up as my best self.
I show up irritated and frustrated
I show
I
up
show up
irritated
irritated and
and
frustrated
frustrated
and impatient,
and
and
impatient.
impatient.
and I create more of that.
And I
create more of that.
Opening up to the idea that it's safe to relax and slow down.
Opening up to the idea
that it's
that
safe,
it's safe and
to
okay
relax,
to relax
slow down.
and slow down.
So that I don't manifest more frustration.
So that I
don't manifest
more frustration.
What I really want is to feel like I'm having quality time with my family.
What I really want is to feel like I'm having quality time with my family.
And when I rush, I don't feel that way at all.
And when I rush,
I don't
feel
feel
that way at all.
But there always feels like there's so much to do.
But there
But
always,
there always
feels
feels like there's so much to do.
And never enough time to do it.
And never
enough time to do it.
And tomorrow it just happens all over again.
Tomorrow
it
just all happens over again.
And I can feel such a need to please everyone and make everyone happy.
And I can feel such a need
to please everyone
and make everyone happy.
Why do I believe everybody but me is supposed to get my best?
Why do I believe everybody but me is supposed to get my best?
Because when I people please all day, I am definitely not giving myself my best.
When I people
please all day, I'm definitely not giving myself my best.
And I can feel really guilty when I have to say no.
And I can feel
really guilty when I have to say no.
But I know deep down that my boundaries are important.
But I know deep down my boundaries are important.
And that it's okay to say no.
And that it's okay to say no.
Clearing all of the challenges I'm feeling about transitioning.
Clearing all the challenges I'm feeling about transitioning.
Down to a cellular level.
Down to a cellular level.
It is safe for me to transition from work to home.
It is safe for me to transition from work to home.
And I'm probably doing it a lot better than I'm giving myself credit for.
And I'm probably doing it a lot better than I give myself credit for.
I'll bet my kids don't even notice most of the time.
I'll bet my kids don't even notice most of the time.
It's safe for me to relax.
It's safe for me to relax.
It's safe for me to slow down and enjoy my family.
It's safe for me to slow down and enjoy my family.
And it doesn't ever have to be perfect.
And it doesn't ever have to be perfect.
I can show up fully.
I can show up fully.
Even when the day has been challenging.
Even when the day has been challenging.
All right. Take a nice deep breath. In through your nose, out through your mouth. You may feel compelled to stretch or yawn or whatever else feels good. And just tell me, whoever wants to go first, what came up for you as we were tapping through that?
Emotionally or physically? Or both? So I'll say physically, it definitely felt lighter. Like there were certain spots I was like, ooh, this feels nice. Like you can actually feel the touch as it was getting more and more through. And then I would say emotionally, it was just resonating with the words. Like the words, I was really listening and like trying to not just hear, but accept them.
Cool. And what about you, Erika?
Yeah, I think for me, I was a little distracted trying to follow Jacklyn. We were repeating, just to be totally honest. So every once in a while, I was like, I feel like I'm trying to, recite things back, and I always try to match that. And so I got a little distracted, which broke my rhythm. But when I was able to kind of not listen to her pacing and her reactions, I also felt the same sort of, it was interesting because the tapping was so fast that at first it was kind of like disruptive in a way. And then after I just kind of, I wasn't noticing I was doing it, right? And it was more just kind of like a presence trigger, like pay attention to yourself, than it was like okay, this is where I'm tapping now. Tap, 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 pay attention, pay attention. And I thought that was something I didn't really notice until you asked what I noticed. And I was like, well, that's it right there. And then when we stopped, I did feel lighter, right? Like there's just kind of a lightness to it.
Good. So if you were to think about, stepping out from work now and into family life, how do you feel about that again on that same scale of 0 to 10? How much stress or tension does that bring up for you?
Definitely a less. Like even my especially in this area, like it's almost like sinuses, like you've had a massage. Like my eyes just feel like lighter, like for sure. Like 4, 3, 4, I would say.
What about you, Erika?
Yeah, I think I might be a little bit higher still. I might still be like a 4 or 5. Only because today is just such a chaotic day, and showing up today in the chaos is just one of those.
There's nothing wrong with that. And they're just numbers. They're just an indicator. Yeah. All we're really looking for are things shifting in the direction that we want them to go in. Mm-hmm. And everybody's different when it comes to rating themselves. It's no different than like when people are like looking at like what they're eating during the course of the day. And some people will be like, I totally blew it because I had one cookie. And other people are like, that's a win. It's just everybody's different in the way that they look at their own, progress on a scale like that. Mm-hmm. But the important thing is that both of you decreased the tension, the anxiety, the negative feelings in that short period. So, if we were, working together and doing more, the next thing that we kind of look at is, well, what's left? What makes up that 3 or 4 for you, Jacklyn, or that 5 or 4 for you, Erika? Like, what's that still made up of? And then that's the next thing that you kind of go after as you target it with further rounds. So I hope that was enlightening and fun. It's always a little bit more challenging when I'm working on something with more than one person and things get a little bit diluted, but hopefully you get a little bit of a taste of how much more powerful it could be if we were to dial it in on something even more. And hopefully this gives, listeners and anybody who's watching this recording a nice taste of what this is like, and a definite way to take the edge off during, a day when you're transitioning from work to home life and wanting to show up fully as the wonderful mom that you are.
And just one question, the words, because as for me, I agree with Erika. Like to me, I think it was the words were really what was catching me, at least in my mind, less than the tapping. So is that something that you said guided meditations, like, is that something where you would create your own words to let it go? Or is there something to follow, like if you were doing it by yourself?
There is a bit of a formula, but the most important thing with EFT is to always focus on the negative feelings before trying to switch it to the positive, or before opening up to what you're willing to accept first. And sometimes, depending on what people are tapping on, that can mean many rounds of just focusing on the negative before people are ready to actually love, accept, forgive, and move towards whatever that resolution might be. But oftentimes in one round, you can at least find some way to let the light in a little bit and begin moving it there. But you may notice like there was a lot more negative focus in the beginning than there was in the end, trying to kind of move you towards more empowerment, more emotional freedom as we get further along in the process.
That makes sense. Oh, well, thank you so much. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. And thank you everyone who's listening to the recording for tapping along with us.
Awesome. Thank you again.